Hey Belinda, we're going to get started for Jessica. So I'm going to start with the spine and we'll go from there. Okay. This is David on the table.
Hello.
He always loves being a surrogate. Okay. And as a holistic counsellor, I welcome any insights that he has through the process. Okay, so to start with, there's one leg shorter than the other, and that's throwing the atlas out in the neck, and that can cause all sorts of areas of the spine to jump up and down and try to balance other parts of the spine. It's sore in here? Breathe in and out, and breathe in and out.
Why is it sore there?
Because the leg is shorter, so that pulls that that sacrum out of whack, which then pulls the atlas out of whack. So we feel it in the neck. So you know how we've talked before about there's certain areas of the spine that connect to each other. So when you correct one, you really should be correcting the corresponding area of the spine as well. Beautiful. Okay, so that's even now. Okay, so it sounded through the notes like there's a bit of trauma going on. So let's just ask the body about any and all survival patterns. And hold up for me. That's good. Hold up for me. That's good. Hold up for me. That's an unlock. Okay, so that's both sides of the sacrum messing with the occiput, so those two areas. Any and all trauma. Any and all trauma. Because I was thinking when we're being triggered easily emotionally, we can have the whole vagus nerve being hyperactive, and it's almost like it's ready to throw that sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems out of balance. Which of course, because that nervous system, the vagus nerve, wraps around every single organ in the body, it means that any symptoms can come from stress. Okay, so in relation to any and all trauma, and hold, beautiful. Okay, so because of the rash, let's just ask firstly around any and all allergies. Any and all allergies. And hold. Yeah, okay. So it's not bad, but it's just unlocking a little bit. In relation to any and all allergies. Any and all allergies. And hold. Beautiful. Okay, and because there's a bit of a history of pain, let's ask about pain and pain hormones. Pain and pain hormones. And hold. Okay, yeah. Pain and pain hormones. So what that can do when we're in pain is compress everything in the spine. So it's sort of, the body goes into this compression, which is basically about protecting ourselves. You can imagine 10,000 years ago when we were about to get eaten by a tiger, our whole body would compress specifically to protect our inner organs. Okay, pain and pain hormones. And hold, beautiful. Okay. With that chronic pain as well.
She was also sitting in the chair for too long.
Oh, yeah, right. So the seating, you know, so being on the computer too long and that sort of thing. Yeah, so in relation to posture. So, yeah, because that's right, because C7 was a bit of a knobby one. Okay, so in relation to posture and sitting too long. And hold. Yeah, okay. in relation to posture. And a good reminder every time you get up off the computer, sort of bring those shoulders back, bend the knees slightly, give a little bit of a bounce in your hips. But then you can also do that stretch, pretend like you're climbing a rope, looking up so that you're bringing your head back and you're stretching all of the muscles either side of the spine. So doing that for 10-15 seconds every time you stand up helps to realign the spine. Okay, so in relation to poor posture and sitting too long. And hold. Good. Okay, so, and let's just ask around siblings in relation to any and all sibling power. And hold. Yeah, okay. Any and all sibling power. And hold. Good. Okay. So stress, pain, allergies. Actually, because of the rash, let's ask around histamine, because sometimes when our histamine gets out of balance, it can start building up in the gut and the brain, but also in the spine. So over a lifetime, if we're ending up with histamine building up in the spine, we're ending up with more and more inflammatory enzymes and hormones building up in there. So that can be one of the it's very hard to diagnose that. So in relation to histamines, hold, which can be part of a thing, yeah, right, which can be part of a thing called MCAS, mast cell activation syndrome. So the mast cells are some of the white blood cells, and they make over 200 chemicals, and histamines is just one of them. And it's very undiagnosed medically, because in order to find out about it, you have to have a blood test at the exact moment that the 200 chemicals are out of balance, because as you can imagine, your body is constantly trying to put us back into balance. So it does everything it can to try to get us back in balance. Histamines, hold. And I will just ask, any potential for MCAS, any potential for mast cell activation syndrome. And hold. Actually, that's pretty good. The other one I'll check is any and all potential for POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia. Sometimes, because with the histamine, so that's showing up okay as well, which is great. But with histamine issues and, needing to have antihistamines before bed and that sort of thing, you can imagine you're constantly suppressing. There's T helper 1 and T helper 2 cells. So when we've got excess T helper 2 cells, that's the allergic side of the immune system. So when we're using medications to suppress the T helper 2 cells, which suppresses the histamines, it suppresses the itching, which is important because you've got to get a good night's sleep. What it doesn't do is help to balance the T helper 3s and 17s in the gut, and it doesn't help the T helper 1s at all. So then we can end up with underlying infections like bacteria and viruses and parasites and delights like that, because T helper 1s are the ones that help to kill those little guys off. So we can end up getting a overload of delightful little organisms in our body that we really don't want. Yeah, and you can imagine with rashes, the things that are sort of supported are things like steroids externally. And the reason, and then of course the rash goes away. They work brilliantly to make the rash go away, but it doesn't actually fix the problem if there is some toxin that's trying to get out, or there's an overload of histamine or something like that. So when we need to get to the underlying cause, which is why we're here, of course. So let's check the ischial tuberosities, the base of the butt. And hold. So this is, yeah, right, that's not awesome. Okay, so basically it's sort of the base of the glute medius, glute maximus, and there's little centering mechanisms. And basically if these little centering mechanisms aren't working, which they're not, it means that everything from here to here is struggling, keeping itself balanced, including, that whole thoracic area, the sacral, the tailbone, all of that sort of thing. And also all of the organs within that abdominal cavity as well. They're sort of not as balanced as they could be either. Eyes open, eyes closed, it's dark, eyes open. Eyes open, eyes closed, it's dark, eyes open. Eyes open, eyes closed, it's dark, eyes open. And hold, beautiful. Okay, so the next two are on the base of the skull. And hold. Actually, that one's okay. Now let's check the base of the skull with the ischial tuberosities. So this is saying, okay, that one's actually okay as well. I'm just going to connect them anyway because I don't trust that, which is fine. Eyes open, eyes closed, it's dark, eyes open. Eyes open, eyes closed, it's dark, eyes open. Eyes open, eyes closed, it's dark, eyes open. That's because when we're on the computer so much, it's really common for these little guys to be out of whack. But maybe it is just throwing the atlas more, which, showed up before as well. Okay, now let's check the tailbone. So we're going to connect C3, tailbone, stretching it towards the toes, and hold. Okay, so that one's unlocking. When that unlocks, it means again that the body's liking compressing the spine, trying to keep everything safe. That can eventually start like a scoliosis in the spine as well, which means all of the muscles are working hard to keep that spine nice and straight, and usually not doing a great job because energetically the body's in a twist when it starts doing that sort of thing. Breathe in and out, and breathe in and out, and breathe in and out. And hold, beautiful. Okay, now I'm going to check it along with the sphenoid bone. The sphenoid bone, 5 out of 6 of the eye muscles attached to the sphenoid. And when the sphenoid is descended or out of balance, it makes it harder work for the eyes to be seeing and comprehending, and that can make our brain tired. Hold. Oh, that one's good. Now let's check the ramus of the jaw. So it's a little, there's like a little dent in the bottom of our jaw that you can feel. It's an acupuncture point to do with the stomach meridian. And hold. It's 90%. I'll just stack it. Eyes open, eyes closed, it's dark, eyes open. Eyes open, eyes closed, it's dark, eyes open. And hold. Beautiful. Okay. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. So spinal respiratory. So this is picking up the energy from the spine to the respiratory and the heart. Wake it up first. Some sore spots in there, David?
Not too bad. There.
Yeah, right. Oh, do you get that sort of gnarliness in there?
Yeah. Should have.
And hold. Okay. Let's check cardiac back. That one's showing up okay. Ah, that one's a bit of an unlock. So breathe in and out. And breathe in and out. And hold. Good. Okay. Let me just check the notes before I turn you over. Oh, yeah, okay. So let's also ask, so the whole loud environments and crowds and things like that. So, so in relation to crowded places. And hold. Okay. In relation to crowded places. To crowded places. Hold. Oh, that one's good. Crowded places. Crowded places. No, a bit. Okay. Eyes open, eyes closed. It's dark. Eyes open. Eyes open, eyes closed. It's dark. Eyes open. Eyes open, eyes closed. It's dark. Eyes open. And hold. And I think one of the other things was rejection. In relation to feeling rejected. in relation to feeling rejected. And hold. Okay. In relation to feeling rejected. Feeling rejected. And hold. Beautiful. Good stuff. Anything else you can think of, David?
No, you covered it, nearly everything.
Yeah,
you know,
beautiful.
so thank
Okay, so I'll stop for a second. We'll flip over and go from the other side.
you. Oh.